Everyone assumes stick figure videos blow up because they're the laziest thing you could upload. They're not lazy, they're strategic. And one channel turned a single video into 3.1 million views and roughly $112,000 a month. That's not an isolated case either. A different creator's very first upload in this exact style pulled 209,000 views and hit monetization before they'd posted a second video. Another channel, built around nothing but simple flat illustrations and a curious, wait, what? Kind of narration, put up a single video about what ancient humans did at night and pulled 6.7 million views in a month. A smaller one racked up 205,000 subscribers off just 8 uploads. Another sits past 880,000 subscribers from only 14 videos, one of which crossed 1 million views in 3 months. With third-party tracking sites showing that channel and 2 others in the same style, pulling in somewhere between $5,000 and $12,000 a month each. None of these people can draw. None of them show their face. And every single one of them is sitting on a secret that most people scrolling past these videos have never actually noticed. Here's the secret, and I'm putting it up front instead of burying it at the end like most breakdowns do. The videos that are actually winning in this niche are never fully static. Every single one of them, somewhere in the process, adds motion to what would otherwise be a flat, still image. Whether that's real animation, a subtle zoom, or hand-drawn frame-by-frame movement. A stack of unmoving illustrations reads as a slideshow, and slideshows get skipped and quietly buried by the algorithm as low-effort, reused content. A stack of the exact same illustrations with even the smallest amount of motion added reads as an actual video, and that one difference is doing more work for these channels than their scripts, their voice, or their niche choice combined. In this video, I'm walking you through the entire process these channels use, ending with exactly how to add that motion yourself, so you can build one of these tonight without ever having picked up a pencil. Why is this specific style working right now, instead of fading the way most faceless formats eventually do? Part of it is a genuine backlash against overly polished AI content. Viewers have gotten fast at spotting a fully rendered AI video and scrolling past it, while a rough, hand-drawn looking stick figure reads as more human, more honest, even when AI built every piece of it. Part of it is the subject matter these channels lean on: short motivational stories, curiosity gap facts about the human body or ancient history, self-improvement narratives. All genres that work on almost no budget because the idea is the entire product, not the production value. And part of it is genuinely how low the bar to entry looks from the outside, which keeps competition lower than in flashier niches, even though, as you're about to see, the actual execution has a real skill ceiling most people never reach, because they stop at the still image and never add the one thing that makes it work. Before any of that, spend 30 minutes on your channel identity, since a channel that looks unfinished gets scrolled past no matter how strong the video behind it is. Ask your AI model for a batch of name options built around whichever specific angle you're leaning toward: motivational, curiosity-driven, historical, and pick one that's easy to say out loud and doesn't already belong to an established channel in the space. For your logo, describe your chosen name and concept to an image generation tool. Keep the aspect ratio square, since that's the standard format. Generate a handful of options, and pick whichever reads clearly, even shrunk down to the tiny size it'll actually display at. None of this needs more than an hour combined, and skipping it is one of the easiest ways to make a genuinely strong video underperform, simply because the channel around it looks half-built. Start with the research most people skip entirely. Don't study the channels sitting at 1 million+ subscribers. They already have brand recognition carrying them, and copying their current output tells you almost nothing about what actually got them started. Instead, look for channels sitting somewhere between 50,000 and 500,000 subscribers in this exact style, the ones actively growing right now, rather than coasting on an old audience. Open their most popular uploads, sorted by views, and pull the titles and opening lines from their top 10. Feed that batch to your AI model and ask it to identify the recurring pattern. Which topics, which emotional hooks, which title structures keep reappearing. Then generate a batch of new topic ideas that fit the same proven shape without repeating any of them directly. Pick the one that makes you want to know the answer immediately. If a topic doesn't genuinely grab you while you're reading it cold, It won't grab a stranger scrolling past it either. Once you've got your topic, the script comes next, and the niche actually splits into two directions worth knowing. If you're going the short motivational or self-improvement route, keep it tight, 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. Punchy, direct, built around a single idea landing hard, rather than several ideas landing softly. If you're going the curiosity gap route instead, ancient history, psychology, space, the human body, you want something closer to a real narrative. One idea pulling the viewer to the next, rather than a list of disconnected facts, since that specific genre lives or dies on whether it feels like a story instead of a trivia dump. Either way, tell your AI model plainly which lane you're in and ask for a script matched to that pacing. Then read it back out loud before you move on, since a script that reads fine silently but stumbles out loud will stumble in the voiceover too. For voice, match the tone to the content rather than defaulting to whatever preset you already know. A motivational script wants something warm and confident. A curiosity gap script wants something a little more intense, almost like someone who just discovered something and has to tell you immediately. Use the higher quality voice model your platform offers rather than its base option. The difference in natural intonation is genuinely noticeable on anything longer than a few sentences. And if there's a one-click enhancement pass available, run your generated line through it before committing, since it's a nearly free way to strip out the flatness a first take almost always has. I've compared a raw first take voiceover against the enhanced version on the same script more than once, and the gap isn't subtle. The enhanced pass adds small pauses and inflection shifts that a flat AI read simply doesn't have on its own. And it's the difference between a voiceover that sounds generated and one that sounds like it's actually telling you something. Whatever you do, trim every gap of dead air between lines before you move on to visuals. A handful of half-second silences scattered through even a short script adds up to real wasted time. And it's a 5-minute fix that makes a noticeably bigger difference than people expect. Now the visuals, and you've got real choice in how you get there. Option 1. Use free stick figure assets from stock illustration sites. Search for the specific style you want. Pick a single artist or collection so your figures stay visually consistent scene to scene. And build your visuals manually inside a design tool by matching each figure and each short line of on-screen text to what the narration is saying at that exact moment. This path costs nothing and takes a bit more manual assembly. Option 2. Generate your own custom illustrations with an AI image tool instead. Lock one style reference image at the very start, and reuse that same locked reference for every single prompt after it, so your entire video reads as one consistent visual world, rather than a dozen mismatched styles stitched together. If you're pulling inspiration from a specific competitor's existing artwork, use it to understand their style and structure rather than feeding their actual image directly back into a generator with a high style match setting, since leaning too hard on someone else's exact frame edges into copyright territory, you don't need to risk when generating your own original character in a similar style gets you the same result safely. Whichever path you pick, set your aspect ratio for the platform you're actually publishing to before you generate a single frame. There's nothing more annoying than realizing you built 40 images in the wrong ratio. A quick note on how many images you actually need. You don't need a new image for every single sentence. That's overkill, and it slows your whole production down for no real benefit. A new visual every 20 to 30 seconds of narration is generally enough to keep pace with the story without turning the project into an unreasonable time sink, which for a 10-minute video works out to somewhere around 20 to 30 images total, not the 100 plus some people assume this style requires. Now, the secret itself, and this is worth slowing down for because it's genuinely the difference between a channel that plateaus and one that takes off. Once your images exist, don't drop them straight onto your timeline and call it done. Add motion. There are two ways to do this depending on your budget and patience. The fast, nearly free way. Create an adjustment layer above your image clips in your editor. Apply a basic transform or scale effect to it. Set your first keyframe at 100% and your last keyframe at around 110%, which produces a slow, almost invisible zoom that makes a flat image read as alive instead of frozen. Copy that same adjustment layer across every clip in your timeline, adjusting only the duration to match, and in a few minutes your entire video has motion running through it that a static slideshow simply doesn't have. The slower, more involved way, if you want real animation rather than a zoom, run your finished images through an AI image-to-video tool. There are several solid options, and most offer some amount of free daily generation, and let it add genuine movement, a figure shifting its weight, a hand gesturing, a subtle background element drifting, to each individual scene. It costs more time per video, but the resulting motion is noticeably richer, and it's exactly the technique almost nobody outside a handful of the fastest-growing channels in this niche is actually using yet. Most AI animation tools also offer some number of free generations per day, which is genuinely enough to animate a full short-form video without spending anything, and if you're building a longer upload, you can mix approaches within the same video, real animation on your 2 or 3 most important scenes, and the simple zoom trick on everything else, which keeps both your cost and your production time reasonable while still giving your best moments the strongest treatment. If you'd rather build the motion by hand instead of relying on any tool, there's a genuinely low-tech option too. Draw your figure's starting pose, duplicate that frame, nudge the position slightly, and repeat. The same basic keyframing logic animators have used for a century, just done digitally and roughly. It's slower than either AI option, but it produces a distinctly hand-touched look some audiences respond to even more than a polished AI equivalent, and it costs nothing beyond your own time. Whichever motion method you choose, don't skip the small storytelling touches that make a video feel guided rather than just illustrated. When you introduce a character by name, add a simple label or arrow pointing at them the first time they appear, viewers orient instantly, and it costs you 2 minutes per video. Split your voiceover at each natural beat and match a specific visual to that specific line rather than letting one image sit under 3 unrelated sentences, since mismatched pacing is one of the fastest ways to lose someone even when the individual visuals look great. Keep a background track running underneath everything, low enough that someone describing the video to a friend wouldn't think to mention it, since music that's noticeable is almost always music that's too loud. Plenty of royalty-free music libraries offer genuinely free tracks for exactly this use, though some require a simple credit line in your description in exchange. So check the specific terms before you upload anything. It takes 30 seconds and saves you a copyright strike down the line. Captions matter more here than people give them credit for, since a large share of this audience is watching with the sound off entirely. Auto-generate them rather than typing by hand. Keep each caption short, a handful of words rather than a full sentence, positioned where it won't cover your key visual. And pick a bold, clean font that stays legible against a busy background. A caption that's hard to read at a glance defeats the entire purpose of adding one. If you're doing the frame-by-frame hand-drawn version, instead of AI-generated visuals, captions become even more important, since that style tends to lean into a rougher, more personal tone, where the on-screen text is doing as much of the storytelling work as the narration itself. For your thumbnail, go back to the same competitor research you did earlier. Screenshot the best performing thumbnails from the channels you studied, and ask your AI model to break down what they have in common. Color palette, how much text, whether there's a face or a figure front and center, then apply that same structure to your own topic rather than starting from nothing. Shrink your top candidates down to the size they'll actually display at before choosing between them, since a thumbnail that reads clearly at full size can turn into visual noise once it's shrunk down to a search results thumbnail. What this actually costs depends entirely on which path you took. The fully free route, stock stick figure assets, a free tier voice tool, a design tool with a usable free plan, and the zoom-based motion trick genuinely costs nothing to start. The AI-generated visuals route adds a small amount for image generation credits, usually somewhere in the range of a few dollars to around $10 per video depending on the tool and how much regeneration you need. And if you're using an AI animation tool for real motion, instead of the zoom trick, budget a bit more time and occasionally a modest credit cost on top of that. Either way, start on whatever free tier each tool offers. Prove your specific topic and pacing choices are actually working, and only spend real money once you have evidence telling you exactly where it's needed. Against a channel pulling even the low end of what these creators are reportedly earning monthly, a few dollars of image generation credit per video is background noise, but only after your topic and pacing are proven. So resist the urge to buy a fancier tool before you've confirmed the writing itself is actually landing. One honest thing before you publish your first one. It's going to take longer than you expect, especially if this is your first time working through image generation, voice, motion, and captions all in one sitting. That's normal, and it drops fast. By your fourth or fifth video, most of the decisions, your style reference, your voice, your caption settings, your motion approach are already locked in, and the whole process starts feeling like a checklist instead of a fresh creative struggle every time. 5 mistakes worth naming directly, because they quietly cap channels that are otherwise doing everything right. First, and this is the big one, publishing a video built entirely from static images with zero motion added anywhere, which is exactly the mistake that keeps a technically well-made video from ever taking off the way it should. Second, leaning too hard on a specific competitor's exact artwork as a generation reference instead of building your own original style, which risks a copyright problem you don't need when an equally strong original look is just as achievable. Third, picking a script pace that doesn't match your content type, a rushed 30-second read on a piece that needed a real narrative arc, or a padded, meandering script on something that should have landed in 15 seconds. Fourth, skipping the dead air cleanup on your voiceover because it feels like a tedious step when it's genuinely one of the highest leverage 5 minutes in the whole process. Fifth, studying only the channels that have already gone enormous instead of the ones actively growing right now, which teaches you what a mature channel looks like rather than what actually got it off the ground in the first place. Sixth, and this one's easy to miss, treating every earnings figure or growth claim you see in a niche breakdown like this as guaranteed rather than an example. Most of those numbers come from third-party estimator tools rather than a creator's actual verified statements. So treat them as a rough sense of what's possible in the niche, not a promise of what your specific channel will do. Once videos are live, pay closer attention to your retention graph than your raw view count, since, in a style this visually simple, a graph that holds flat is telling you your pacing and your motion choices actually worked, and that's exactly the signal that earns a video more distribution over time, regardless of where it started. A sharp drop at one specific second is pointing at one specific problem, a caption that lagged the audio, a scene that sat too long without any motion, a visual that didn't match the line being spoken. So go back and diagnose that exact moment rather than guessing at a fix for your next upload. Do this after every single video, not only the ones that underperform, since your best performing uploads are just as instructive. They're showing you exactly which choices to repeat on purpose instead of stumbling into again by accident. This format also scales sideways with very little extra effort. The same production pipeline, script, voice, style-locked visuals, motion, captions, runs identically whether your content is motivational, historical, psychological, or built around any other niche entirely, which means once you've got the process dialed in, switching topics costs you almost nothing beyond a new script. Several of the fastest growing channels in this exact style are quietly running more than one of these at once for that exact reason, since the actual bottleneck, once everything is dialed in, is nowhere near your daily time budget. It also travels well across platforms. The same finished video, once you've got the motion and the pacing right, tends to perform on short-form feeds outside YouTube too, since the visual style and the curiosity-driven hook translate almost without modification. So, here's the whole system laid out in order. Research channels that are actively growing, not ones that already made it. A script pace to match whether you're doing something short and punchy or something narrative and curious. One consistent voice, cleaned of dead air. A locked visual style, whether hand-assembled from free assets or AI-generated from your own reference. And the one step almost everyone else skips. Real motion added to every single scene, whether that's a subtle zoom, genuine AI animation, or hand-drawn framework. Because that's the actual line between a slideshow that gets buried and a video that gets pushed. No studio, no crew, no drawing talent required. Just a laptop, a handful of tools, and the discipline to add the one step that actually separates the channels winning in this niche from everyone else quietly wondering why their identical-looking videos aren't taking off. Your first attempt at this is going to feel slower and clumsier than the videos you've been watching blow up. And that's simply the tuition for learning where the motion actually needs to go. By video 5 or 6, this stops being a struggle and becomes a checklist you can run through start to finish without overthinking a single step. Go back to where we started. 3.1 million views. 209,000 views on a first upload. 6.7 million views on one video in a single month. None of that came from some advantage you don't already have access to right now. It came from creators who figured out the one thing that separates a video from a slideshow and applied it consistently, while everyone else kept posting still images and wondering why nothing was working. You've got that same secret sitting in front of you right now. The only thing separating you from a published video tonight is whether you actually open your tools and add the motion, or close this tab and let someone else build the channel you just got the entire blueprint for. If even one piece of this is going into tonight's video, hit subscribe, because I'm breaking down a new corner of this stack every week, and you don't want to be a video behind on the next one. Drop a comment with which style you're building first, hand-drawn, AI-generated, or the zoom trick. I read every one of them. And if you know someone who's been talking about starting a faceless channel, but hasn't actually opened a single tool yet, send them this video. It might be exactly what gets them moving. Open your tools, add the motion. I'll see you in the next one.